The Fujifilm XH2S will track everything but UFOs in its latest spec leak, building up to an announcement on May the 31st at the Fujifilm X Summit. Details coming up, but first I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Patrick at Fuji Rumors reports that the Fujifilm XH2S Autofocus system is going to be greatly improved and that it's going to be able to track many things. Included are planes, trains, and automobiles. And you know what? I'm thinking back to the OM system, Olympus OM Systems OM1, and now that's an awful. It still doesn't flow, does it? Let's just call it the Olympus OM1 announcement back in February, where they talked about their autofocus system being able to track pretty well everything but UFOs. It could do planes, it could do trains, not just regular trains, but freight trains, high-speed trains. It could do motorcycles, cars, racing cars. It could do people. It could do eye detection, animal eye detection, human, bird eye detection. The only thing it couldn't do, as I mentioned, is UFOs and for some reason, boats. Don't know why boats was left off. Maybe that's for a firmware update. Well, according to Patrick at Fuji Rumors, the HX2S will be able to track planes, trains, automobiles, bicycles, birds, human eye detection, animal eye detection, bird eye detection. But once again, there's no mention of boats or UFOs. And boats I kind of find strange because it's pretty simple. You basically, in most conditions that you're going to be out shooting, you're going to have a relatively flat surface. I know waves do get a little crazy, but let's just work with that flat surface for a minute. Pretty well everything on top is either an animal, which we've already got autofocus for, or a human, and again, we've got autofocus for, or it's an inflexible boat. So how hard could that be? I'll leave that up to some engineer to get back to me on. And as far as UFOs, how many times do we see these UFO images? And they're always far away, so why on earth people are using wide lenses when they should be using something like a super telephoto 600, 800, or even the new 1200 millimeter lenses coming out is beyond me. And whenever we do get pictures of these, because they're using wide lenses, it's using some sort of evaluative tracking, metering system. So what we get is these bright objects that are more or less overexposed dots in the sky, and there's no detail to be had, right? No surprises. You'd think that somebody with a super telephoto lens would start hunting these things down, but then if the autofocus system was able to, and here's why a lot of times these are overexposed and blurry dots, you've got a very big sky. And your camera, a lot of these point and shoots or smartphones are designed to get wide angles. And what are they doing to evaluate the light coming in? They're looking at the entire big sky, not this tiny little dot that maybe represents a couple of pixels. And that's why they're overexposed. A couple of years ago, when I got the 800 millimeter, this guy right here, this behemoth of a lens, I started pointing it upwards, oddly enough, instead of downwards at birds. And I started shooting things like the moon. And the moon was easy to do, but when I started doing Jupiter and Saturn, I had some problems. First of all, and I have a 2x extender on here, so it's equivalent to 1600 millimeters. To try and line it up in the sky, and keep in mind that for all intents and purposes, Jupiter is pretty stationary. It's going to be at that one point in the sky with the Earth rotating ever so slightly. So to try and get it lined up sometimes could take me a couple of minutes. And now I can get it down to about 30 seconds. So I'm lining it up, and then I finally get it there. And as I tighten things up, as I adjust the focus, by the time I've got the exposure set, I've set the right f-stop so that way it's not overexposed. I can see the banding in Jupiter. It's already shifted through the entire frame. And I think that's a challenge for anybody to try and do any sort of UFO focus. So I joke about it, but I still look at the physics of it. And it's funny because I always hear people saying, well, everybody's got cameras. Why can't we get clear, sharp images of these flying objects? Why are they always blurry? Why are they always overexposed? Well, it's because of the cameras you're using. Try taking pictures of airplanes in the sky, especially ones that are at altitude. It's very hard. Now, they're, again, traveling at a constant speed, but once you put on a 600 millimeter, you've got to try and get the focus right. It's very hard to freehand it and get it. And if you're using a tripod, it's even harder. It is not an easy thing to line up the focus and get it done right, unless, of course, it's parked right on the ground. It's the same thing with cars. If you try and take a picture of a car that's 2 kilometers away, the detail isn't going to be there. And it's, a plane in the sky or a UFO in the sky, they're probably about 20 kilometers away. If they're directly above you, they might only be 5 to 10 kilometers away. But if they're at an angle, well, using simple math, you can tell that they're easily at least 20 kilometers away, and using a wide area lens, it's not going to work. But still, UFO autofocus would be useful. Wow, what a tangent. Is it Monday morning? I don't even have my watch on. And what a tangent. So anyhow, the purpose of this video is to talk to you about the Fujifilm XH2S autofocus system. And I guess I went off into a rant of trying to problem solve why we're getting blurry, out of focus, overexposed images of UFOs. Because there's a lot out there. There's amazing how many they are out there. And they all pretty well look like these blurry white dots, essentially overexposed little dots. Aside from not being able to track boats and UFOs, let's hope that the new autofocus system in the Fujifilm XH2S is going to be more reliable and trustworthy like the Canon and Sony autofocus systems. But that's it for now. Please subscribe and choose all notifications if you want to stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors. And by choosing all notifications, that means as soon as I publish a video, you're going to get a little notification from YouTube right in the top corner telling you I've got a new video, so that way you can stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.